The problem Mrs. Danjuma experienced in her home didn't just walk in through the front door, back door, or the window. That problem had been living with them, eating her food, wearing her clothes, sleeping under her roof, and enjoying all the necessities of life. That morning, nothing looked unusual. The gates opened, the engine started, and Mrs. Danjuma stepped out for work like she had done countless times before. She was a rich woman. Oh, yes, but more than that, she was a woman who believed in family. Her hair business kept her busy, but her heart was always at home. She was already used to busy mornings. Her life ran on schedules, phone calls, and invoices. She believed she had arranged her life so well. A good husband, three sons, a maid that she had already taken as the daughter she didn't have, and a comfortable home. The maid had not always looked the way she did now. When the girl first arrived from the village, she barely spoke above a whisper. Her dresses were dull. Her skin was dry like that of Banla. You could tell that this one had been exposed to stress and sun. Mrs. Danjuma had taken her in with genuine kindness, and within months, the transformation was impossible to ignore. She remained calm with the maid's transformation because she had set boundaries early with clear and firm rules. The girl was not allowed to cook for her husband, Mr. Danjuma. She was not allowed to wash his clothes, and she was not also allowed to enter the couple's bedroom. But all this didn't matter when the Delilah spirit entered into the maid. Soon, Amanda finished secondary school, and she no longer rushed out of the room when Madame entered. She no longer kept her eyes low, and sometimes when Madame spoke, she took one extra second before responding, as if weighing whether the instruction was worth obeying. Mrs. Danjuma ignored all of this. After all, confidence was what she wanted for the girl. She had always said, I don't like broken people in my house. She wanted the girl to grow and to feel human again after the village life she came from. But she failed to know that confidence has siblings and familiarity is one of them. The maid graduated and began to dress differently. Her clothes hugged her body more. Her dresses suddenly came with shape. Her hair was always neat, sometimes too neat for someone who claimed to be busy with chores. And worst of it all, she would put on makeup and wear contact lenses like she was stepping out. One evening, Mrs. Danjuma casually asked, Where are you going to? Amanda smiled. Nowhere, ma, and Mrs. Danjuma laughed it off, but slowly, laughter began to reduce. The second thing she noticed was movement. The maid was always where she didn't expect her to be. If Madame stepped out of the room, the maid passed the hallway. If Oga came down to drink water, the maid suddenly needed something from the kitchen. If Madame was on the phone, the maid found reasons to linger. Still, Mrs. Danjuma didn't speak up because to her, Amanda didn't cross the rules, and rules were everything to her. Amanda did not cook for Oga. She did not wash his clothes, and she did not enter their bedroom. In fact, Mrs. Danjuma trusted her so deeply simply because she kept to these rules. What she didn't know was that some rules are broken without being touched. Soon, she began to notice something quite unusual. Her husband, Mr. Danjuma, had always been a quiet man, but now his quietness had weight. He spoke less during dinner, and when he did, his words felt careful like someone walking on broken glass. Sometimes she would be talking, and then she would realize her husband was not listening. Are you hearing me? She asked once. Yes, 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 he replied quickly, nodding too much. She looked at him and felt like he was going through a business stress he wasn't ready to share with her yet. After all, rich men encounter problems, but she never imagined that the problem was standing close by, doing the chores and answering her, Yes, ma. Some weeks later, the maid complained of laziness and then headaches. Mrs. Danjuma noticed the girl no longer ate properly. Some days she avoided food entirely, and other days she vomited immediately after eating. Still, pregnancy never crossed Madam's mind. Never. Instead, she became worried. She asked her questions and then she reduced her workload. Rest, she said. You are not a machine. She even cooked pepper soup herself. Very spicy, and served it with agidi carefully the way her own mother taught her. She did not stop there. She placed it in front of Amanda like a shield. Eat, she insisted. You will be fine. Amanda thanked her and ate that food like a prisoner because it really went down well. Unyobioma Mrs. Danjuma even ordered for parfait, the one that was made by a worthy vendor, and Amanda enjoyed it as well. That night, she laid in bed beside her husband, still talking about Amanda. She needs to go to the hospital. I don't like the way she looks. Mr. Danjuma turned slowly. Okay, he replied. If you say so, then I will take her. Madame nodded satisfied. The next morning, she begged him. Please, don't forget what we discussed last night. Take her before it gets worse. He agreed, and just like that, Oyobioma Mrs. Danjuma left for work peacefully. She did not know that the moment her car left the compound, fear sat down in her husband's chest. The man looked at the maid differently, not with desire and not with authority, but with panic. He called her. What is all this now? He asked. The maid did not pretend. She talked to him like someone talking to her mate, as the Bible rightly says that a man who gives himself to adultery will be reduced to a piece of bread. She said, when you were doing it, what were you expecting? Please, let us all respect ourselves here. The man's world shrank. He begged. When it didn't work, he warned, and when that didn't work as well, he threatened. Go and remove it, because if you destroy my home with this, I will deal with you squarely. Amanda listened calmly, and then she laughed. Oga, an empty vessel makes the largest noise. You see this thing in here? I will not touch it. Get that into your skull. My child will not suffer because of your fear. He or she will have an inheritance in the Danjuma's empire, and that's on period. In fact, clock it. That was when the house changed permanently. The man could not sleep that day. He became more restless than a super active toddler. Every corner of the room reminded him of what he was about to lose. His marriage, his respect, and his image. By the time morning came, he had not slept for even 1 full hour. His eyes were red, his thoughts tangled, and his heart raised every time he imagined his wife's face if she ever found out the truth. He had spent the entire night negotiating with himself. First, he blamed the devil, then loneliness, then temptation, and finally the maid. But by dawn, blame no longer mattered. He knew one thing clearly. If the secret reached his wife's ears, the marriage would not survive it. And so, in the cowardice that often disguises itself as strategy, he reached for the weakest shield he could find, his son. Ayomide had always respected his father. Even at 21, he still saw him as a man of principles, a quiet man, disciplined, composed, and highly responsible. But that morning, after his mother had left for work and the house was quiet, his father called him into the room. Ayomide noticed immediately that something was wrong. His father's shoulders were tensed, his voice was strained, and his eyes were restless. Sit, Mr. Danjuma said. Ayomide sat, and they were both quiet before his father started. Ayomide Omomi, please, I need your help. With what, sir? Ayomide asked. Mr. Danjuma swallowed. I need you to say you are responsible for something. And please, it will remain so. Trust me, I will reward you handsomely. Ayomide frowned. Responsible for what, Daddy? The man hesitated, then spoke as if speed could soften the shame. The pregnancy. The pregnancy? Ayomide asked. Who is even pregnant? And father, this must be a joke, right? No, please, Mr. Danjuma replied. I just need you to say it is yours. Desperation was pushing him forward this time. Just say it. Your mother will forgive you, but she won't forgive me. It was at this time Ayomide stood up. Are you saying I should lie? He asked. I mean, lie about something I didn't do? Who is even pregnant, Daddy? And why did you betray Mommy after all she had been doing for you and for this home? So in your heart of hearts, tell me, sir, how do you want me to rate you? This is about saving this family, Mr. Danjuma insisted. Your mother loves you. She will be angry, I know, but she will stay. If she knows it is me, she will. He couldn't finish the sentence. Ayomide laughed, not because it was funny, but because he didn't know what else to do. So, you want me to carry your shame? He asked. You want me to become the man you failed to be? And those words hit harder than any slap. Mr. Danjuma opened his mouth to speak, but Ayomide raised his hand. It was at this point Amanda came out with her Obanje spirit just to throw up. Oh, I see, Ayomide said. Don't explain it. Don't justify it. This is not just about the pregnancy. It is about a man asking his son to destroy his own integrity so that he could continue pretending. I mean, make it make sense. I should pretend to be the father of my step-sibling. Wow. Daddy, you raised me better than this. Mr. Danjuma reached out, but his son stepped back. No, Daddy, I won't do it. I will not lie for you and I will not disrespect my mother just like that. Come to think of it, she doesn't deserve this. Mommy does not rest even with your money and she's rich as well, yet she respects you. So tell me, what were you looking for in another woman again? You practically ridiculed my mother by sleeping with Amanda. No self-worth again. A maid that can't even stand where she stands academically, beauty-wise, shape-wise, respect-wise, and in all ramifications. Mr. Danjuma panicked. Please, he begged. Just think about it. Think about everything your mother and I have been through in our early days and also think about this family. No, sir. You should have thought about all these things before you climbed the bed that fateful day. He turned and walked away. He went straight to his room, locked the door, and picked up his phone. He called his mother. She answered on the second ring. Cheerful as always, speaking fast and also talking to her customers. Mommy, Ayomide said. Something in his voice made her stop talking. What is it? She asked. Mommy, you need to come home. Her heart tightened. Ayomide, I am busy. Please, he interrupted. Come home now. She knew that tone. It was pain, and so she said, I am coming. She handed her shop over to her attendants without explanation, entered her car and drove home with a heart that had already begun to ache. By the time she arrived, Ayomide was waiting. He didn't waste time. He told her everything. When he finished, he said, Mommy, the ball is in your court. Whatever decision you take, we will not judge you. Everywhere became blur to Mrs. Danjuma. She looked at her husband who had just walked in. He couldn't meet her eyes. Is it true? She asked quietly. He nodded, and that nod hurt more than words. She asked one question. Where did I miss it? And where did I fail you as a wife? That question destroyed him. She reminded him of the years, the struggles, the growth, the loyalty. And then she turned to the maid. Immediately, she asked her to go into her room, pack her things, and leave. She even offered her a huge amount of money to go fix her life. Guess what? The maid refused. I am not going anywhere, oh, she said calmly. Then she added with a tone that sounded like a threat, wrapped in confidence. If you force me out with police because you have money, I will spare no one when I want to tell you that I came from a banker. That was when Mrs. Danjuma became speechless. That night, nobody slept. The worst part was not the betrayal, it was the way the house adjusted to it. The next day, Mrs. Danjuma woke up hoping foolishly that what she heard the day before had been a bad dream. She opened her eyes to give orders, and with the assurance that she was still the only woman of the house. When she stepped out of the bedroom, she met Amanda in the hallway. She did not greet her, and that alone was a slap. Good morning, Mrs. Danjuma said, forcing the words out calmly. The maid looked at her slowly, and then she replied like a big madam. Morning. No, ma, just morning. Mrs. Danjuma ignored her and decided to be the big one here. In the kitchen, things were already different. Amanda moved around freely, opening cupboards with confidence. She did not rush. She did not avoid eye contact, and she behaved like someone who has settled in permanently. Mrs. Danjuma noticed immediately, and she stood there stunned by the audacity. She remembered the girl who once asked for permission before sitting down. She remembered the girl who used to thank her 10 times for being kind. Now, that girl was gone. In her place stood someone else. Later that morning, as Mrs. Danjuma prepared to leave for work, the maid walked past her and said casually, Former madam, don't expect me to do anything, no. After all, my level has upgraded. We are now eating the same soup. The words landed like poison. Mrs. Danjuma turned sharply, and then she asked, What did you just say? The maid smiled. I said, Former madam, don't expect me to do anything. After all, my level has upgraded. We are now eating the same soup. Even the blind can see that things have changed. That was the moment Mrs. Danjuma realized the truth she had been avoiding. This was no longer about pregnancy. This was about power. She left the house that day, but her heart stayed behind, trembling. At work, she couldn't focus. Customers spoke, but she didn't hear them. And for the first time since she started the business, she wanted to abandon it and run home. When she returned that evening, the situation had worsened. The maid was sitting comfortably in the living room with her legs crossed, watching television. I mean, her television. Mrs. Danjuma stood by the door and imagined if she didn't bring her in the first place. That night, she cried. She cried into her pillow like a woman mourning herself. She prayed, asking God to fight for her. She told God to save her from the hands of someone she once helped and then give her wisdom to do things in the right way. Her husband heard her crying and turned his face away because he had lost the right to comfort her. Days passed. The maid grew bolder. She spoke to Madame anyhow. She refused instructions and she commented on family matters as if she had always belonged. Mrs. Danjuma said nothing because silence had become her shield, and she also told her son not to react. Ayomide saw how his mother's shoulders dropped, how her laughter disappeared, and how she moved around the house carefully like someone walking through broken glasses. He wanted to deal with Amanda because he wasn't happy, but his mom refused him to do so because of the threat Amanda had issued. And if there was one thing she was scared of, it was juju. One evening, Ayomide found his mother alone staring into space. "Mommy," he said, "how are you doing?" She smiled weakly and replied, "I am fine." Ayomide sat beside her and said, "This house is hurting you, right?" Mrs. Danjuma nodded, but she wasn't ready to leave because of what was at stake. Then, life intervened in its own cruel way. Amanda began to bleed suddenly. The pain came like plague. And by the time they rushed her to the hospital, it was already too late. She lost the baby to a stillborn. Mrs. Danjuma visited her in the hospital not out of obligation but out of humanity. She paid the bills and she ensured she was comfortable. She gave her 2 days to rest after returning home. Then she made her decision. The maid protested. She threatened and she cried. But this time, Mrs. Danjuma did not bend. 2 days later, the maid was gone, and now the house felt lighter and emptier. Mrs. Danjuma woke up every morning and moved through her house like a guest who knew where everything was kept, but no longer felt welcome touching anything. She cooked when necessary. She spoke when spoken to, and she smiled when visitors came. Her husband tried. He spoke more than before, asked unnecessary questions, offered help he had never offered in years, and he bought expensive gifts she did not ask for, the kind meant to apologize without words. She accepted them politely and placed them aside because the problem was never money. At night, they slept on the same bed, but miles apart. Sometimes their bodies touched accidentally, and both would stiffen as if remembering something painful at the same time. They no longer argued. Arguments at least mean people still care enough to fight. They had moved into the phase of careful coexistence, and anytime Mrs. Danjuma looked at him, she saw what she could never unsee. Ayomide saw what was going on. He couldn't take it anymore. He traveled as his siblings were in boarding school. He called often to check up on his mother. "Mommy, how are you doing today?" he asked every time. "I am fine," she always replied, and both of them knew it was a lie. He visited sometimes, but never stayed too long. He greeted his father respectfully, but there was a distance so wide that cannot be crossed with apologies. Mr. Danjuma felt it deeply. Losing his son's respect hurts more than losing peace with his wife. This was the punishment nobody warned him about. 5 minutes pleasure pulled him down without any apology. Months passed. Mrs. Danjuma adjusted. Things remained very civil. She and her husband spoke like colleagues managing a shared project. Polite, brief, and efficient. Sometimes when visitors came, they performed marriage so well that people envied them. Her husband tried again to win her back. This time not with gifts again. He came home early. He stopped unnecessary movements and he stayed predictable. She noticed his efforts, but she could not feel them because trust is not a tap you open because someone is behaving well again. It is like a glass. Once broken, even if you glue it back carefully, the cracks will remain visible forever. Amanda, on her part, got welcomed to her village by reality without mercy. The house she returned to was just the way she left it years ago. She met her people with the same poverty that did not pretend to be anything else. The bed felt harder. The nights felt longer with huge mosquitoes singing harmonies and biting her mercilessly. In the Danjuma's house, water flowed freely. Light was constant and food came without struggle. But in this her village, everything required effort. She fetched water before bathing. She thought twice before eating, and she slept with worries and woke up with them. That was when regret entered fully. Amanda began to remember things she had ignored before. How her madam defended her, how she trained her patiently, how she trusted her with her home, how she never raised her voice at her unnecessarily, and how she even sponsored her schooling when she could have easily sent her away. She realized something painful, that her madam did not deserve what she did to her. She wished she could turn back the time. She wished she had respected boundaries, and she also wished she had valued kindness while she had it. But life does not reverse. Thank God she had one thing going for her. Her madam had trained her, paid for her education, ensured she had a certificate. At that time, Amanda never imagined that this certificate would become her only lifeline. She used it to secure a teaching job in a small village school. The pay was 20,000 naira a month. Every month when she collected her salary, shame followed gratitude because she knew deep down that the woman she betrayed was the reason she could even earn that money. Within 3 months, stress began to show on her body. Her skin lost the glow Madam's money once maintained, and there was no money for creams, lotions, or routines anymore. Her color changed, not because of witchcrafts, but because poverty was doing a resetting. Sometimes, when she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself, and in those moments, regret sat beside her like an unwanted companion. She finally understood that some opportunities come once in life, some kindness are not replaceable, and some homes are safe only because someone chooses to protect you there. Mr. Danchum on his part had tried everything to restore his home, but nothing worked. So he decided to see a trained marriage counselor. He told her everything, from the temptation to how they landed on the bed and how he didn't waste time to score a goal. When he finished, the counselor said one thing that stayed with him. Confession is not repentance, so changes. She asked him if he was ready for the process, even if it didn't end in reconciliation. He said yes. That was when she asked him to invite his wife. When Mrs. Danjuma received the call, she hesitated, not because she was afraid, but because she had already swept it under the carpet. Still, she went. She explained to the counselor how betrayal had changed the way she saw marriage, trust, and safety. She admitted that she had forgiven him but wouldn't grant him access. Then, the counselor asked her a question that surprised everyone in the room. Do you want to leave this marriage? Because the Bible permits it in cases like this. You are not bound by guilt. Mrs. Danjuma took a deep breath and replied, No, ma. She explained that she wasn't staying out of fear, shame, or pressure. She was simply staying because she had weighed the cost of living and the cost of staying. And so she chose the one she could live with. And finally, because she didn't want to rebuild her life from anger. The counselor applauded her. And then she turned to Mr. Danjuma. This marriage will not be restored the way it was, but it can be rebuilt into something honest if you accept new rules. She counseled them deeply. She spoke about accountability, transparency, and patience. She talked about how trust is not demanded. It is earned slowly, and how remorse must be consistent, not emotional. She recommended books on betrayal, recovery, and emotional responsibility. She gave them exercises, and finally, she made one firm recommendation. Before any intimacy resumes, she said, both of you must go for full medical test. Mrs. Danjuma agreed immediately. Mr. Danjuma also did not argue. They went. The results came back so clean. It didn't erase the past, but it removed fear. Slowly, They began to talk again and meet as husband and wife, and before they knew it, the walls began to break. After the reconciliation, there was one conversation Mr. Danjuma could no longer avoid. He called his son Ayomide and asked to see him. He agreed, but he did not sound excited. They met in a quiet place and then he apologized. I failed you as a father and as a man. I asked you to lie for me. I asked you to carry a shame that was never yours. That was wrong and there is no justification for it. Ayomide's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. I betrayed your mother, his father went on, and I disrespected you by thinking my reputation mattered more than your integrity. I don't expect you to forgive me quickly. I just want you to know that I see the damage I caused, and I am sorry. Ayomide finally spoke. You didn't just ask me to lie, Daddy. You asked me to become someone I didn't recognize. Mr. Danjuma nodded. I know, he replied, and I must say thank you for choosing integrity when I didn't. And thank you also for loving your mother genuinely. Please learn from me. I never knew a day would come in my life where I would betray your mother. You don't pet or pamper situations like this. You flee as the Bible had admonished. I fell. That's true. But the good news is I am not on the floor again. I have risen, not just for me, but for you and your siblings. And I know you will never make this mistake in your marriages. Ayomide was moved, and so he forgave his father. Hey, African Tales by Karma Tribe, how are you all doing? For me, I am doing just fine. Let me ask you, do you think Mrs. Danjuma answered well when the counselor asked her if she wanted to leave the marriage? If you were in her shoes, will you still remain in that marriage, especially if the baby had been born alive? Kindly share your thoughts with me in the comment section as I would love to read from you. Don't forget to give the story a thumbs up, share out to your loved ones, and punch on the subscribe button if you are not already a subscriber. And until I bring the next interesting story your way, it is a goodbye from here, and God bless you.